What's happening, everybody out there in the YouTube world? I thought I'd make a little video about driving the Bonneville Trans Am. I've had so many people ask me, what's it like to go 300 in a door car? What's it like driving on the salt flats? Ain't no way to describe it other than to go do it. But I thought I'd make this video and kind of show you what it takes to make a pass in the 5-mile course at Bonneville. So here I am sitting in the race car. I'm going to flip that around here. You can kind of see what we're working with here. You got your clutch pedal, just like a regular race car. Brake, and then you got the throttle. And then after that, that's pretty much it for being anything similar to anything else you would drive. Alright, well, first thing, once you're all strapped in the car, normally I wouldn't be sitting in here with my work shoes and my loafing pants. It's a Dash 20 fire suit, helmet, gloves, shoes, helmet, Hans, and then you have to wear arm restraints. And then of course the window net is in the upright position. Window latches are closed. Prior to making a pass, we'll have the fire pins out, we'll have the chute pins out, and I will have the front airbags set to about 95 psi, and then that sets our ride height for the front end. Normally we'll raise it up to about 120, 130, and that allows us to tow around the course. But once we set it on the ground, the front spoiler is about 1 inch off the ground. So once all that's set and we get to the ready line, the starter will come, check your belts, make sure your helmet's secure, arm restraints are in, all that good jazz, give you a rundown of the course, ask you how fast it's going to go, yada, yada, yada. All that good stuff. So once we get the okay from the starter, what I'll do is, first thing I like to do is to make sure that this is pulled back, which puts me in the forward gears. And then we have the ACD shift controller, which I have to arm with this button right here. And that pretty much lets me shift it all the way up to 4th gear. Only way to downshift is to reset the button, which dumps the air off of the pods on the Lenco. This is a Lenco 4-speed, no reverse. And then, of course, I got two chutes. One's manual, and the other one is pneumatic. So that'll be my parachute button right there. And then I will shift it first, second, third, and then fourth as I go down the course. And then I also have a main power disconnect that I can control from the driver's seat. Of course, I got engine fire suppression and then cockpit fire suppression. And then if all else fails, we have a manual fuel pump shutoff that will also kill the car. But anyway, enough talking about getting ready. Let's talk about what it takes to make a pass. So once I get the okay signal from the starter, I have my foot pressed in on the clutch, and this car, it will not take off on its own. So I have to have a push trot, and you can see the speed right here. We'll push it to about 50 miles an hour. And then once I reach 50 miles an hour, I let off on the clutch, and then I start giving it some juice. Normally, on a decent run, I can go pretty much full throttle off of the push truck, because the rear gear is a 190 rear gear, so it takes forever to build up any kind of RPM and speed off the truck. But once it gets to about 5,800, 6,000 RPM, that's when this old girl really comes alive. You'll have to start driving it at that point, because it'll just roast the back tires. Usually around that point, I'm usually around 100, maybe 120. And most times I'll just go ahead, once it kicks the back tires loose, I'll hit second gear, and I'm still trying to ease into the throttle, more throttle, more throttle, more throttle. And I'll shift into third gear, probably close to around 180, 200 miles an hour. And by that point, I am close to the 2 mile mark, coming up on the 2 1/4. And then usually right as I'm going through the 2 1/4, I'm going into fourth gear. Still can't get wide open throttle, but I'm giving it as much as the course will allow. At that point, I am coming up on the 3 mile mark, and basically in this car right here, if I'm not 285 to 290 going into the 3 mile mark, it's pretty much going to be a scrub run, because you're just covering so much ground. You just don't have time to recover. So what I like to do is I can look down and see my speed, and it doesn't take much steering. Like most runs that you see me make, about this much input is about all the car will take. And you just pretty much have to let the car go where the car wants to go. And if you get on some good patches of salt, I can hammer down wide open throttle. But for the most part, I'm feathering the throttle between 100% and probably 70%, which is about maybe an inch of movement at my foot. And then you're still trying to keep the car straight. And then, as you can see, you just can't see much out. So I'm probably looking out of this car probably close to a 1/4 mile out, just depending on where it's at. You can see some bad patches of salt. They look like grayish color as you're approaching them. That stuff there, you're not going to hook up on any of that stuff. You pretty much just have to glide over it and hope for the best, because you go wide open throttle on that, you'll spin this baby out. So by then, once I'm coming through the 3 mile mark and I'm looking at speed, pretty much for this car, as long as if it's over 300, I'm going to hang with it. But we're doing a mile about every 12 seconds. So it really doesn't take long. A full run's about a minute and 10 seconds, minute and 20 seconds, just depending on how hard we get after it in that first mile. As I'm approaching the 4 mile mark, I'm still trying to give it wide open throttle, and I'm in high gear already, so I don't have to worry about shifting the car. I'll try to glance at the oil pressure. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to ignore that because I'm looking to see where I'm going and looking at my speed. But we do have a safety in the EFI that if it drops below 45 PSI, it'll kill the injectors and the engine will shut off. So that'll keep from grenading the motor like we've done before in the past. So as I'm approaching the 5 mile marker, I'll reach over and I'll launch the chute. Still not hitting the brakes. And if all goes well, you're looking with one chute and a little bit of brake, I'm usually about at the 7 mile mark turning out. Now, I have stopped this car with the pneumatic chute and then reach over and throw the manual chute. And I've stopped from, I stopped at 314 to turn off at the 6 1/4. And that was some pretty hard shutdown. But basically, once you get the chute out, the car kind of stabilizes, and you're just looking for the flags to turn it out of the course. And then pretty much once I get out, release the belts, fall out of the car, and then I'll turn the GoPros off, start packing the chutes up, and then I forgot to mention, once I go through the 5 mile mark, I also clutch the transmission. I'll dump the air on the Lenco, so which puts me back in first gear once I dump the air and rearm the ACD controller. And I won't let back out on the clutch. Most of the time I can coast. Sometimes I'll have to drive a little bit. They don't like you to drive on the other end under power. They want you to coast off the track, but it just depends on what's going on. Yep, so once I get out of the car, I'll pack the chutes up, turn the GoPros off, and it's still several minutes for the crew to come down and pick me up. As long as nothing's on fire, burning up, rods hanging out, which we've done before, we'll head to impound, hopefully, where you have an hour to get to impound, and then you have 4 hours to service the car. And then once you're done with your 4 hours, you can't do anything else to the car until you make your return run the following day. But they did change it to where you could run the same day later that afternoon, which is what we chose to do. Just a quick walk around on the car. Twin 88 millimeter turbos. Yeah, we got 4 trailer tongue jacks, which gets the car way off the ground because you can't get a floor jack up under it. The radiator is submerged in a 40-gallon water tank. We run methanol, so the engine, I think the hottest this thing's ever got was like maybe 200 degrees. Well, not that bad. Air to water intercooler, CO2 bottle for the parachute, wastegates, and the transmission. We run the Holley Dominator EFI. Got 2 fire bottles. Look right there. Woo, this baby's rolling. 303.685 mile per hour record. That's a two-way average for the record. One run was 314, and then my other run was like 293. AA blown fuel altered. So that's any motor larger than 500 cubic inches. Blown is supercharger, turbo, whatever. Fuel is anything other than spec gas, not a sealed tank. We run methanol. And then altered is you can do a couple things to get in the altered class. We have the headlights blocked off and the front marker lights blocked off. You can stretch the wheelbase just a skosh. That puts us in the stock bodied door car class. 30-inch tall tires. Lexan all the way around, 1/4 inch. Bob's Pro Glass. He makes this stuff. Really nice stuff. Haven't had any problems with that. You can run a wing in the altered class. This is the largest spill plate that you can make for the car. 2 chutes, 1 chute there, another chute here, push bar, quick change rear end, coil over shocks. Here is all the times that we've been. 2019, that year we should have stayed home, but we didn't. They shortened the race to, I want to say, a 4-mile course. Super wet course. I want to say we waited 32 hours to make one run. We had to leave the car in line and then come back the next day. 2020, salt was pretty decent that year. Got licensed up. I made it up to the AA license. My next run would have been for an unlimited license, which is over 300. AA is 250 to 299. I think I went 280 something. The very next pass, I kicked the rods out at 267-ish mile per hour. Got that fixed, came back in 21, made a super awesome run, went 305 miles an hour in the 4-mile, qualified for the record, and the car burned up. Long story. I'll fill you in later. 22, we drove all the way out there and went through Tech. It rained that Friday. Wasn't bad. And then it rained again Saturday, and it turned really bad. If you look back on some of my other videos, I had to drive my Suburban through the salt. Ruined my Suburban. I just did a partial restoration on it. Drove it 4,000 miles round trip in my 87 square body Suburban. It looks like it's been sitting out in the woods. That year was a bust. 23, we were on the way and it rained out, so we turned around and came home. And then 24, we finally got the record. So you can see what it takes to go set a record at Bonneville. There's a lot of trips. A lot of people ask, what's the scoops for on the side? That is a fresh air vent that is required by the SCTA. We get the fresh air in, and then it will pressurize the inside of the car in the event of a fire, and it's supposed to blow the smoke out. Never had a fire inside the car, but I've had a pretty good sized fire under the hood. Clutch, brake, throttle. If you look here, we had to tape a block to the throttle pedal. I changed fire suits from the year before, and then I lost a little weight. Can't really tell, but the scale says otherwise. The suit put me a little further back in the seat, so I was like having a hard time getting wide open throttle. So we put the block on there, and that pretty much solved that. Got your standard switches here. This turns on the front air compressor for the airbags, AccuSump, the water tank, and then the intercooler. Both tanks have a water pump that circulates the water. Accessory arms the parachute and the transmission controller and the pump for the turbo drain backs. Of course, you got ignition and then starter. This is basically neutral, forward, main power switch, pneumatic parachute launcher, and then I got the shifter on the right side and then the parachute on the left side. And that's pretty much it. When the car's on the ground, this thing is like maybe about 2 inches at the rockers and about 1 inch at the front air dams. These new scoops, we had to add these. That's what caught on fire back in, what year was that? 21. The heat from the turbos and the headers just kind of cooked the fiberglass. The new scoops work great. No problems whatsoever.